Hello, this is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show. The Scotch Irish are some of the toughest people on God's green earth. They are the people that tamed the Appalachian Mountains. It was some of the toughest terrain on the American continent, and it was the Scotch Irish that went up there and settled those lands. And the question is, how did these people get so tough? How did they get so rugged and determined? Well, you have to look back to their roots in Europe. You have to look back to the time when they became known as the Scotch Irish. You see, they were not Scotch Irish to begin with. They were Scottish and they were Irish, and they lived next to one another. And it is because of a tactic used on the Scotch Irish by the establishment at that time that they became known as the Scotch Irish. And so what the King of England did at that time to the Scottish and the Irish people, what he did as a divisionary tactic, as a tactic to shift attention away from the king and his constantly increasing taxes, to shift attention away from the king and his continual punishment measures, to shift attention away from the king and the encroachment on their way of life and the oppression of these people. What he did is he pitted the Scots and the Irish against one another, and he placed Scottish people in Irish lands. In a purposely provoking measure, he gave Irish lands to Scottish people. And then he fanned the flames of racial division. He fanned the flames of inflammatory rhetoric, and he began a propaganda effort to divide these two people. And this was all done in an attempt to cultivate a hatred amongst these two people. It was as if the king pitted two dogs in a dog pit to fight. But these were not dogs, they were men. And they did learn to fight, and they eventually overcame these tactics and combined their efforts to come to the North American continent for a second chance at peace. Divisionary tactics, it is the heart and soul of totalitarian efforts. It is the heart and soul of men with bad intentions. It is the motivating factor of someone who wants to profit at your expense, and it is done solely to hurt people. And the question becomes, in our own Fort Bend County government, did our own Fort Bend County government use these tactics against the people of Fort Bend? Fort Bend County is the most diverse county in the country. It has more ethnic communities than any other county in the country. And while most people would celebrate this fact, the question is, did the Fort Bend County Democrats, did the Texas Democrats see this fact as an opportunity for exploitation? Did they see it as an opportunity to divide the people of Fort Bend and to profit at their expense? Since the Democrats retook control of Fort Bend County about 6 years ago, the Democrats took the Fort Bend County government, a racial narrative has spewed from these politicians. There have been accusations of racism within our own police forces, accusations of racism at the voting locations, accusations of racism amongst the children of Fort Bend in our schools. And with every one of these accusations, the Texas Democrats are the supposed heroes that will save the day. They will save us from ourselves. And they always have a solution propped up that further establishes the Texas Democrats' control on the Fort Bend County administration. But you see, up to this point, we have not had a smoking gun. What I just described is only my suspicion, and we have not had a smoking gun. The suspicion that Texas Democrats are pulling the race card for their own political benefit has only been a suspicion. But the question is now, at this point in time, do we finally have the smoking gun? Because what's happened is 2 indictments have been served on 2 Fort Bend County officials, one of which is Terrell Patel, who is a chief of staff. The second of which is on the chief executive of Fort Bend County, one of the rising stars of the Texas Democrats, a man who gives everything he has for the Texas Democrats hold on Fort Bend County. And that man is K.P. George. K.P. George, the county judge of Fort Bend County, has been indicted on a scheme on a scheme to paint the people of Fort Bend as something that they are not, on a scheme to paint the Fort Bend as racist. KP George has done this using, as I understand it, fake Facebook profiles where he poses as Fort Bend County residents and then he makes disparaging comments towards minorities. And so there you have it. We've had a racial narrative coming out of the Fort Bend County administration for years now. One after another, this undercurrent, this constant narrative coming from the men that we elect, the men that represent us, the men that we fund. Their salaries come from our taxes. And this narrative has been constantly coming saying that essentially the people of Fort Bend themselves are racist. But now we see what, in this allegation, and it is only an allegation at this point, that it appears that our senior county executive and a leading Texas Democrat has been posing as the racist and making these disparaging comments himself. And this is the Chris Heasley Show. And on this show, we will give you all the ideas, the content, the information that you need to take back your city, your county, your state, the great state of Texas, your school district, your village, your borough, and of course the country. But there's an obligation that comes with this show, and the obligation is on you to get involved, to take a stake in your county affairs. We always advocate for activism, and we advocate for it at the local level, because at the local level, you get the best bang for your buck. And what we are witnessing is our local governments go rogue. It is like a rabid dog that is turning on his owner. It appears that we have caught one of our leading Texas Democrats in a scheme to misrepresent and disparage the people of Fort Bend, the people that he represents. It cannot get any more traitorous than that. And on today's show, we have a great show. Today's guest, we have Caleb Holmes, founder of Texas Legislative Youth Advisory Council. Caleb, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. And Bobby Eberly, Fort Bend County Republican Chairman. Bobby, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Good. Let me turn yours up a little bit there. So, Bobby, what do you think? I had a lot to say in that opening monologue. Do you think that that's an accurate representation, or tell me what your thoughts are?
Yeah, I think it's right on, except for the smoking gun. This is more like a melting down cannon is what we have on these guys. And, you know, when KP George first did this 2 years ago, when he was running for re-election, he had this huge press conference. He brings out these collage of these tweets and social media posts that are calling him racist names and everything. And my first reaction, honestly, at that point was just grow up. You know, if you're a politician, you're going to get hate. I have 100,000 followers on YouTube on my show. I get nasty comments all the time. So I actually had my team put a collage of nasty messages to me and say, look, if you're going to be in politics, grow up. But then, you know, this, as someone, I'm half Hispanic. And so growing up, you know, you get these racist messages from time to time, but it's always an individual, some usually idiot person. And so it's always been something that really goes up my spine when you see in the political world them try to exploit race when we all should be coming together. And so then this election cycle, when Terrell Patel did the exact same thing, then you're saying, oh, wow, they're playing off the same playbook. You know, Terrell's holding a press conference. He's got a collage of racist messages. What's going on? And then as they investigated and found that all of these accounts are linked to him and he's sending fake racist messages to himself, allegedly, but I invite people to read the arrest warrants and look at the evidence. The number of indictments against Terrell Patel is now up to 9, including 4 or 5 felonies. And it is a very, very bad scene. But again, in the most diverse county in the entire country, playing off racial politics. On the one hand, he'll give a press conference saying, look at how we've been able to succeed, you know, bridging this racial divide, and yet they stoked the racial divide, both for political and financial gain. In the last election cycle, he would post that he has to replace signs because the Republicans are damaging them, and please donate to my campaign. Yet the only person arrested last cycle for sign stealing or sign damaging was a KP George supporter. And then he plays off of this racism and blames Republicans, blames the Republican candidates, Republican supporters. And now we know it's all fake. It's our own Fort Bend's Jussie Smollett, on steroids, because this is a group of people doing this. And they do it over and over again. And what they're facing this time is a party and me fighting back because we're not going to take this anymore. It's personally something that I find offensive, but politically, too, it has no business in Fort Bend.
Well, okay, so I think that what's interesting, one of the things you said is that we are the most diverse. Fort Bend County is the most diverse county in the country. We have Vietnamese, we have Indian, we have Pakistani, so many more, Cubans, Chinese, but we have so many more. But that fact, I mean, again, we're living in harmony, but it's almost like if you have a political player like KP George, he's essentially trying to put, it's created to create a tinderbox situation, and he drops the match.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, we're all living in harmony. We're not, consumed with these ideas. KP George is, but if someone's stoking the fire, absolutely, it can be a tinderbox situation.
Absolutely. And we see it over and over again. I mean, there was a candidate for him because, again, they go to this because it's been effective. Like you said in your monologue, this is a tactic that they use because the other side always backs down. I mean, as soon as you're called a racist, please forgive, and it takes us off our game. When we want to talk issues, we want to talk taxes, we want to talk public safety, these kind of things, this takes us off our game. So when we do fight back, it stuns them. But it goes beyond KP George. There was a candidate for him last month. I put out a statement on this, predominantly black audience, and we have a judicial race. The incumbent, Tamika Carter, Democrat, gets up in front of the whole audience and says, from top to bottom, Republicans, when they talk about tough on crime, it means locking up as many of us as possible. That's what she said to the audience. And I mean, and our candidate was just stunned, and we fired back that has no place in it. But that's in our political discourse. But that's a tactic that they use, and they expect it to go unchecked, and we're just not going to let that happen.
Well, yeah, and I think that one of the things that we have to acknowledge is that this racial narrative is from top to bottom across the Fort Bend County Democrat Party, across the Texas Democrats as a whole. But they took hold of the office about 6 years ago. They took hold of the majority of county offices 6 years ago, and it's been a constant drumbeat for racism. And I think that what we need to do is we now need to understand what their driving motivation is. And the driving motivation is that they want to divide the people. It's been used since the beginning of time, and then they want to profit. They want to essentially nullify us so we have less of a voice, and then when they start passing out the contracts to whatever contractor that they have, we are so sort of disparaged to such an extent that we don't have the courage to say a peep. It's sinister, because my whole point is that what people always like to say, they're just Democrats, they're just they're just mistaken. No, it's a sinister scheme. They are brilliant in an evil way. What do you think?
Exactly. Well, you see it as Wayne Dolcefino and other investigative reporters have looked into this. This goes back to contracts, engineering contracts in the county that KP has ties to these people, and Terrell Patel has ties to these people. So it all comes down to money. And that's what's so bad about it is they use the racism as a tool. No one believes it, right? No one believes it out there. These people don't believe it, but they know it's effective to get us to back down, because now if we question contract allocations or something, maybe we're being racist there, and so people tend to not look at the obvious. And we see the corruption in Fort Bend County. I mean, we have signs that we've been waving around at polling locations with all these people's mugshots on it saying "End Democrat corruption," and they're angry that we're putting out these signs. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. And it's like, well, stop breaking the law. Stop being criminals, and maybe we can actually talk issues, because you certainly don't want to talk issues. I'd rather just talk the issues. But if they're going to deflect and try and paint a narrative, then it's up to us to show the people who these people really are, who they elected, and that they're not truly representing them.
Well, you have to bully a bully. And the race card is 100%. It's a bullying tactic. That's all it is. Is to get people to shut up. But I guess the question is, now that I feel like the people have really gotten sick of this narrative and they're sort of coming together. And at the same time, now the Democrats' schemes and tactics cannot be more obvious to everybody. And the race card's been their greatest effective tool. What do they have left in their toolbox? Is it effectively nullified at this point?
It's getting there. I mean, we have to continue to speak out. One election cycle of us speaking out is not going to change decades and decades and decades of tactics. They'll if I were them, I'd be sitting back saying, okay, we'll weather this storm and we'll come back and see if the next round of leaders is going to speak out. It has to be a sea change where people say, look, show me what you got on your push card about, what you're going to do about taxes or our potholes or anything like that. And we need to get to that place where, the residents of Fort Bend want that accountability. We can talk about it, and that's the first step, because we hadn't talked about it before. But now that we are, it needs to catch on, and they need to say, well, look, you're not really delivering. All you're doing is stoking division. We want, whether it's Republican or Democrat, we want good leaders, and they're not getting that.
Yeah, I mean, we sometimes forget, what did we elect these guys for? What's KP George's job? He's basically a manager, a city manager. That's all he is. Mm-hmm. His job is to make sure the trucks are gassed up, that the blinking lights are working, that the potholes are filled. But he somehow projected himself as this stalwart for morality, as this philosophical leader for the people of Fort Bend. And then he wags his finger at the people of Fort Bend in a condescending manner and tells them that they're all bigots.
Right.
And it is used there's not a Democrat, Texas Democrat, there's not a Fort Bend County Democrat that's not using this, that's not done that to the people of Fort Bend. And I feel like the ship has sailed, and I feel like they're really in a tough spot. But the other thing is that if you do a search on Fort Bend County, what comes up is KP George's scheme.
That's right.
In all national news. So now what the Texas Democrats have done, what the Fort Bend County Democrats have done, is they've made Fort Bend County sort of a joke at the national level. It's an embarrassment.
Right.
Do these Democrats, do they have any shame?
I don't think so. Or they wouldn't put their own county at risk, because again, this extends beyond just winning elections, right? The county has to do business. It's an entity. It's a business entity that does business across the state. It does business across the country. And so if people think that your leadership is corrupt, we can invest in this growing suburban county in California or Florida. Why would we go here? People need to realize that, this is what your leadership affects. Your vote affects these people. So take a stand, get them out of there, and put people in that, either on the judicial side, the management side, the administration side. Republicans excel in doing that job. That's, I work with the candidates. I know that that's what their focus is, and not building this crony corruption that ruins cities, ruins counties.
Yeah, I mean, I know so many people in Fort Bend County are looking at this election, and they're saying if this county swings any more to the Democrats, that it's game over. I mean, it's just, the county services are going to erode, the taxes are going to increase, and they want to put us in a debt spiral. And then of course the crime's going to seep in,
right.
And it just becomes a domino of theory, or domino effect, and so everything's at stake right now. But yeah, so Caleb, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what about Harris County? Tell me what you think. You've heard this monologue, everything me and Bobby have talked about. We know I feel like the Harris County Democrats, that their scams they're still getting away with it, right? They haven't been exposed yet. Yeah. But the wheels are going to come off the cart soon in Harris County. What do you think?
Absolutely. And we have the same scams. It's just that we haven't had enough people speaking out about them. Linda Hidalgo, her and Rodney Ellis, they're best buds on the commissioner's court. But they're still the scams are they're just seeping out now slowly, but they are sleeping out. We saw that Linda Hidalgo decided to give a grant to a company in California. Instead of a company that was based out of Harris County. We did some more digging into that and found out that she was in connection with the company, and her staffers were in connection with the company. And you as a citizen, as a concerned citizen, you can only seem to think, well, she must be getting money out of this deal, and she is. And her and Rodney Ellis are the tag team for corruption in Harris County. And they were so corrupt, even the district attorney who I saw that you had on the show, Kim Ogg, she went to investigate them. And instead of complying with the investigation, they primaried her and implemented somebody that was going to be unwavering in their support of Rodney Ellis and Linda Hidalgo. So the crime issue, the economy, the cost of living is going up, the crime rate's going to go up, and it's not their concern. What they're concerned is passing their far left agenda and getting whatever they want done instead of the actual concerns of the citizens of Harris County.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, Bob, you can join in any time here. Wanted to give you both a shot at, giving an update on your
I'm this is the first time meeting this guy, and I'm already impressed. So I want to sit back and listen a little bit. I think he's got some great stuff to say.
We have some hope in our future. It's like I find that fact fascinating. They're passing around contracts in Harris County. Kim Ogg is not a player of that game, right? So she launches an investigation, and then Rodney Ellis, the Texas Democrats, they basically primary her. I find the whole thing fascinating,
Yeah, it absolutely is. It is fascinating, and it's quite honestly crazy. I've never we've seen things like this happen before. I mean, when the Democrats they don't care about what the public image is, more or less, because they're going to get the same votes from the same people all the time. So when they found out that she was investigating them, and she had talked with Kim Paxton about him collaborating in the investigation as well, they said, okay, well then we need to get her out of there, because our skeletons are not going to come out the closet, because then they now have a much, much larger issue to deal with, more than just spending a little extra money on getting a district attorney out of her office.
So does anybody confront Rodney Ellis on this stuff?
Not enough. I mean, our media, a lot of media in here tends to favor Rodney Ellis and Linda Hidalgo, but not enough, not nearly enough to be able to take that into concern and take that into account. He could care less whether or not the few folks that come up here and ask him about it. We have patriots who do come to the commissioner's court and call them out on it, but it's not enough. We're not getting the correct coverage from the media, local media here, to address that. And if we turn the spotlight on them, I mean, just knowing this much information, there's clearly a closet full of things that would come out alongside if we just put that pressure on them.
So at the national level, to me, and I want both of your opinions, to me, I see a Trump wave of epic proportions. I see huge momentum on our side. Am I getting it right? What do you guys think?
Absolutely. I agree. Right now, the top issues are the economy and border security. These are both things that the Biden-Harris administration have failed on. So when the biggest issues are your biggest failures, you're going to have a voter turnout not in your favor. And then they're losing their top demographics when it comes to the Democrats. They're losing Hispanic voters and they're losing African-American voters. And it's simply because right now Republicans nationally are doing a great job comparing records side to side for these communities. For African-American communities, President Trump was transformative on funding historical black colleges. He increased funding by 14%. Like we said, when the past few administrations, historical black colleges came to D.C. every year begging for money. They're just asking for the basic necessity to get things through. Obama, Clinton, Bush, every president before him, they had to come and beg for funding. President Trump, they came to D.C. and he said, you know what, I'm not going to give you what you're asking for. He said, I'm going to increase it by 14%. And the next time you come to D.C., I don't want you to come for money. I want you to come and say how great you're doing in educating the African-American community. He passed a bill that waived them of all of their debts when it came to the Hurricane Katrina. A lot of them had been affected by that, and they were in debt, having to recover from that. He passed a bill and basically waived them of having to pay that debt so that they could continue to fund and support these communities. For Hispanic voters, the border security, those communities are some of the ones that are directly affected by border security. We saw just in Houston with Jocelyn. She, the 12-year-old girl who was raped and killed by 2 illegal immigrants, and she was a Hispanic. Her family was Hispanic, and they are now one of the largest people speaking out against this because of how bad of an issue it's become, and all of the immigrants who have come here legally, they're saying, hey, we had to go through it the right way. We did the right process. We waited our time. We took our time and made sure that we did it. We passed our test, and now we're able to vote legally. And you guys just came over here because of weak border security, and now you're expecting to get everything handed to you. You're expected to be catered to. We weren't catered to when we came to America. We had to work. We had to start our own businesses. We had to buy our first home, buy our first car. You're coming in here and you're getting these first things in the first 30 days. So they are concerned about that, and it's running our country rampant with crime and just the economy falling apart.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's loads and loads of propaganda going in favor of the establishment, in favor of the Democrats, in favor of the Texas Democrats.
Yeah.
So you're giving me all the reasons why people should vote in a certain way, but is the minority communities at large seeing the things that you're saying, or are they being affected by the propaganda media?
The propaganda is definitely affecting them, because if we didn't have this propaganda media, I'd say that Trump would be winning these communities. He'd probably be winning everything because they can't spew these false lies about it, and that is affecting a lot of Republicans. I mean, a lot of Democrats still think that Trump is racist. He thinks that he's a misogynist, that he doesn't support women, that he doesn't support Hispanics, he doesn't support African Americans, and that's just simply not true. And that media is going to continue to portray that messaging. And they don't care about records. They don't care about policy. They don't care about what it looks like side to side on them. They don't care about that. They just care about getting their media points across and making Kamala look like she was successful in her tenure and that she's the better of two candidates, when everyone who doesn't take into account the fake news knows that that's just simply not true.
Yeah, I think that the corporate media is watering down, right? They still have a fight in the game, but they're losing credibility at breakneck speed. That's how I see it. But
absolutely.
What do you think, Bobby? Tell me what you're seeing.
Yeah, well, on that point right there, there just was a poll last week that showed the record low faith in the media. I mean, it has crumbled right now. And then you see some reaction to that, what Jeff Bezos is saying, that we're not going to endorse, and we might need to have some more conservatives hired at the Washington Post. I think a lot of that is bottom line driven. Because he sees the writing on the wall. They're losing subscriptions, and I said on a program the other day, it's easy to be one of these far left radicals when everyone's embracing woke and DEI and it's sweeping the nation. But when people start to say, hey, we're going to reject that, we don't want that, we're not going to follow your news service, and all these alternative medias are breaking out, and the fact that Trump is likely going to win and they have to work with him, it kind of, and your bottom line is suffering, it kind of makes you a little less radical, I would think. But there's a lot that's going on around the country, and I kind of look at it this way. You've got what I would call surface polling, and that is the economy, the border, and crime. That's what people will answer to when they are asked about these polls. But under the surface, that's what really fascinates me. And I think what's driving a lot of people is this us versus them mentality. This, are we in control of our own government, or is it this ruling elite, regardless of party, that seems to be crushing our free speech, wants to take away our rights, wants to lock us down? And that's why you see this coalition. I mean, Trump is awesome, but he's bringing this coalition together of RFK and Tulsi Gabbard and Elon Musk and people that are just committed to saving the country. I mean, bring in RFK Jr. on the health side, bring Tulsi on the defense side, bring in Elon on government efficiency side, and clean house. And then, let these people probably go back to their normal lives, and we can have honest Republican versus Democrat debates on what the tax rate should be, right? We're at a point in this country where that's not really even possible if we don't control our own government. And I think that's one of the reasons that Trump has surged and people support him, is they see him as that person to lead that battle. But there's very significant heavy hitters that are joining that battle. And I like the way the election is playing out. You see the swing states, the battleground states, all moving in the polling towards Trump's direction. And I even think that some of the polls talking the last couple days have kind of dumped some very skewed polls to try and tighten it a little bit. Like, for example, Wisconsin has actually flipped slightly to Harris's side because there was a CNN poll that had her up 6. And so in the averages, that's going to give her that. As soon as that cycles out, you're going to see Trump well ahead. And I think the momentum is there on his side for sure. I mean, people have had a chance over the last couple months to see Harris. Recall the audience needs to recall that she was the worst ranked vice president in the history of vice presidential rankings, and then all of a sudden the media tries to prop her up as something that's the second coming, and they're realizing that when she's actually asked questions about issues, she can't answer them. She tries and tries, and you just wonder, like, what did she just say? You know, we need to change what hasn't changed but needs to be changed, and we will change it. And you end up with some garbage like that. So and her surrogates aren't doing her any favors too. Whether it's Cuban, whether it's Bill Clinton, whether it's Biden, anytime they speak, they make the case for Trump. So I think we're on a good path right now.
But Trump's driving dump trucks and showing up to speeches in the gear as if he's doing the garbage truck in the day.
That's right.
I don't know, man. I think the guy is so funny, you know.
Well, and he's funnier. Yeah, he's funny, but he's funnier this time around. And I think, Caleb, when we were talking earlier, we were talking about he's got this attitude that he's having fun with this, and you got it. It's going to be the end of the line for one of these people, and you give it your best shot at this thing. But he genuinely loves being in this environment, being at these events. People say, "Oh, that's a photo op." Well, just look at in primary season when all of our candidates are going like to the Iowa State Fair. Everything's a photo op. Everything's a gimmick. I'm going to throw pies at someone's face or whatever, right? But Trump, people gravitate to these when they're doing it. And then Harris walks into some barbershop and everyone's just like, the music stops and you're wondering, it's just everything feels awkward. When Trump has these events, they feel fun and genuine. And I think that sinks into people too.
Well, the way that the left describes it, they say that they're the civilized alternative, right? That they're the civilized. But the truth is that Trump is just, he's just being natural, right? He's just being like an everyday guy, that he could pull up a chair at the bar and hang out with you. And I just find that to be more authentic. What do you think, Caleb?
Absolutely. And like I said, he's out there having a blast. He's out there having a good time and doing what he loves to do is talk with people and serve the people of the United States of America. He's just out there, and his campaign staff is having a blast as well. I know that they're coming up with all kind of brand new ideas. I know we've seen a lot of the same things from presidential elections. You all do the same thing, but he's doing different things. Like I've never thought I'd see a president show up in a garbage truck. I never thought I'd see that, and I never thought, we'd see some of the things. He has some of the most iconic photos of any of the presidential elections. The fight photo, which is absolutely incredible photo there, and then we have the mug shot, which was hilarious. I thought that was
my goodness, man, that mug shot,
that was great.
That mug shot might have won him the election. That thing was tough.
Yeah.
And then there's the McDonald's photo when he was there working at McDonald's and he was waving out the window. These are the craziest photos that we've ever seen of a presidential campaign, and it's because he's out there having a blast, genuinely wanting to work for the American people. I've yet to see any sort of thing from Kamala showing that she worked at McDonald's.
Right.
Yeah. Didn't he go to a Chick-fil-A and buy everybody in the restaurant a Chick-fil-A ice cream cone?
Yeah, he shows up and people just love it. And that's the thing. They love this guy. They can't wait to hear what he's going to say. You never know what he's going to say, but you know that it's going to come from the heart. And again, that's the genuine nature contrasted with Harris's inauthenticity. You just she's going to put out a line that's crafted by her staff, and she doesn't understand the issue. And what's even worse is she doesn't understand the people that she's supposedly trying to represent. Where Trump, being in the business that he has, he knows these construction workers. He knows the blue collar mentality, and it's been part of his life since he got into business. And they relate to him, and he relates to them.
Yeah, it's amazing times. I really think that we're in something transformational and epic. I personally think that this sort of just authentic representation of President Trump, I think it's winning people over. And I think that this exposure of fraud at epic levels, we're going to go back to Fort Bend County in a second, but epic fraud at the national levels. Kamala Harris, her track record is frightening. Mm-hmm. There was as I understand it, there was a reporter in California when she was the Attorney General in California, and the reporter was attempting to investigate what happens with the byproducts from abortions. So in other words, all of the tissue, the membranes, all of the discarded items from abortions. And the reporter just wanted to know, who's that being sold to and for what purpose? And she had the reporter locked up. And so these stories are coming out, and I think that the difference in decision, the decision is stark, right? What our choices are. And that's how I see it. What do you think, Caleb?
Absolutely. I mean, in like what we were talking about back there, she doesn't like the truth coming out at all. When you saw it with the reporter, we see it now when she doesn't want to answer questions. And when she does answer questions, it's horrible for her campaign. I feel bad for her staffers. I really do. But when she was on The View and she was asked, would you change anything about what you guys have done in the last 4 years that's led to the highest cost of living in a very, very long time, the most illegal border crossings in our nation's history, violent crime high, but they don't want you to know that violent crime is high. They actually change those results. But that's what they don't want you guys to know, the truth, and she doesn't want you guys to know the truth. And that's what's so scary about it, is because she wants to censor everything. They've quite literally tried to censor it. As the CEO of Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, I think that's his name, and he said, yeah, the Biden administration reached out to my executives and said, we want you guys to censor rhetoric about COVID-19, that we want you guys to censor rhetoric about Hunter Biden's cases. We want you guys to censor that. We don't want if they try to post something about them or they try to post conservative messaging, we want you guys to take that down as hate speech and all these things. That is what's scary, because when you start, if this is your track record now, imagine what's going to happen if you're the commander-in-chief.
Yeah, I mean, at the local level, there's this narrative that everything's fine in Harrison and Fort Bend counties, right? In Fort Bend County, the county sheriff is out there saying crime's down, this, that, and the other, and all the county citizens are saying, is crime down, or is it reported crime down? So in other words, are they playing with the numbers? In Harris County, Kim Ogg came and she just dropped that argument like a lead weight. She goes, this is nonsense. Mm-hmm. And she's like, crime is epic right now. What's the truth? What do you think?
Well, yeah, definitely. When you look at the crime stats, you can see that, especially over like last 4 years, KP George's reign and Eric Fagan, our sheriff's reign, the crime has gone up. There's just no doubt about it. How does
he get away with saying it's gone down then?
They talk more about, I know in the last election cycle, they'll talk about like Sugarland or city governments and say, hey, but it's like, well, that's kudos to the local police and local law enforcement. That's not the county's responsibility. Where the county is in place is where Eric Fagan as a sheriff are failing. I mean, there's 150 some openings, deputy openings in Fort Bend County, because people have left because of low morale and lack of leadership. Those are people that could be on the streets, patrol deputies out there. And those spots are just waiting to be filled because people don't want to work in this environment. That's a failure of leadership right there. And that's why we need to change it. But so many people get locked in thinking that these people are delivering when they're not, because they'll show up, they'll give a speech, they'll say, hey, I represent the community. But people don't ask those questions about, okay, with your job, are you actually performing that job compared to how it should be? And they will never answer those questions.
Yeah, I live right on the border of Harrison, Fort Bend County. And if you literally go 2 blocks up, it gets. I don't know how bad it is, but I don't feel comfortable up there. Mm-hmm. You start to see the homeless. You see people laying in the streets, half dressed. It's pretty disgusting. You can't walk those sidewalks, and step through their urine. You can't do it. It's disgusting. And so I see that stuff, and then I hear Eric Fagan saying, "Oh, crime's it's walk in the park, no big deal."
Right.
And it just questions everything for me.
Yeah, and that's why it's important for people to really pay attention during campaign season and do the work. Do the work of investigating these candidates, because if you just watch some 30-second ad or some soundbite, you're not going to get the true story. So many of these candidate forums that are put on during election season are not true debates. It just gives a candidate a chance to put out their platform. Many of the rules in those, you're actually prohibited from challenging a candidate. So it's just a chance for you to just put out your platform, and they'll say nice stuff. But I'd love to see more actual debates at the county level from some of these organizations. So it really falls on citizens, residents to do that work and find out what's really going on, so we can get better leaders.
Yeah. You want to say something?
Well, in Harris County, it's the same thing. In the Harris County Jail, it's overfilled, and people are, some say, safer in the streets of Harris County than the streets of the jail in the jail, because of all of the violence that is happening. It's more happening in the jails than in the streets, and that's supposed to be one of the most secure places in there. And then in judges in Harris County, some judges haven't tried cases since COVID, and that is why this county has such a violent crime rate, because we have judges who haven't tried cases since COVID, and judges who are releasing criminals and illegal immigrants on bond. Just they're going out there committing crimes, and then you get to go back into the streets 24 hours later. That is what the issue is. If this is the status quo, if this is what we're going to allow to happen, then we might as well just give the county to the criminals, because they're going to overrun it at some point. They're overrunning the jail already. And now they're overrunning our streets by just releasing them, and they don't fear law enforcement. That's a big issue. And then they want to attack the Second Amendment for people who want to protect themselves, especially in Harris County, from criminals who are out there in being released, and they don't feel safe, and they want to have some sort of protection in their home. They want to attack the Second Amendment, and then we see it in countries that have already banned firearms, like Canada and the United Kingdom. The crime rate doesn't go down. It's just they're using different tactics to incite crime. So it's very confusing on what their logic is. I don't understand why they feel the need to release criminals, and then we're going to deny the people the right to protect themselves.
I mean, like I've said since the beginning, this is a sinister scheme. All of these things align in one direction, which is the eradication of your rights. All of these things align in one direction, which is more power for the establishment, the Texas Democrats. The ball is always bouncing in their direction, and we're supposed to just believe that it's all coincidences. It's just normal. It's not. It's beyond us. It's statistically impossible at this point for everything to go in their direction. It is a plan. It is a scheme. So the reason they've bastardized the word conspiracy theorist is because they don't want us thinking that conspiracies may be happening. So if you do it, it's a shaming tactic applied to you. That's okay. I'm not, a child anymore. That's okay. They can call me any name they want. There is no way that this is just a set of events. There's someone that drew this whole plan down, this master plan down, and when you do that, you step over the line into a treasonous act. And I'm saying these Democrats, what are they doing? They're letting our criminals out of the jails. Mm-hmm. They're opening up our borders. They're steering our funds to friends and family. They're taking our funds away from essential items. And they're calling us racist the whole time, browbeating us with the race card the whole time. This is beyond just politics. We're now in a question of legality, in my opinion. This is beyond it. I see this as something the equivalent of some sort of Sun Tzu. He says, "You defeat your enemies from within before you put a boot on the battlefield." Mm-hmm. And that's what they're doing. They're rotting us out from the inside out. There's no way KP George with his scam to go ahead and call us all racist. And it's just one more bad idea by the Democrats. I'm sorry. I'm not going to accept that argument. What do you guys think?
I think they've desensitized the word racist. They say it so much. I mean, if I go out there and I look at a person the wrong way, I'm a racist. And I'm still in high school. I still go to high school, and I am starch conservative. No matter where I am, I don't change my opinions. I don't change what I believe. And I've been called every word on the book. I've been called a racist. I've been called a bigot by people in my high school because I don't agree with some of the things that you guys are saying. And then when I go out there and every single day like clockwork, during my lunch period, I'm going to debate with somebody about an issue. They're going to come up to me and say, I don't agree with you. I think Trump is this. I think Trump is that. And I'm going to defend Trump's record. I'm going to defend Senator Cruz's records. I'm going to defend Republicans' records when it comes to the issue, because when you compare the records side by side, it is simple. It is very, very simple. And it's almost crazy to think that you could vote for a party that supports that. Just a few days ago, I was having another debate with this kid, and we were talking about the issue of abortion, which is a very hot topic for everybody. And we were talking about that issue, and he was saying, "Hey, if I go out there and I have a sexual relation with a woman, and I get her pregnant, and she decides that she doesn't want the baby, she should have the right to kill that baby." And I said, he said the word "kill," and I think that is just absolutely crazy.
Desensitizing life.
Desensitizing life.
Desensitizing life.
They kill the baby, and then it felt like it put a little bit more force into the word "kill" as well, and it's just that just makes my skin crawl a little bit. It's absolutely disgusting. I think that what we have right now, the system that we have where it's left up to the states' rights, is absolutely correct way to do that. The Roe v. Wade, regardless of what you believe on abortion, regardless if you think it was illegal or not, it was an unconstitutional ruling, which was led by the liberal Democrats to try to protect their horrible track record on killing babies. So I don't completely understand how people can go out there and support and say that they want to do that, especially if you're a person of religion. And I know a lot of religions speak out against things of that nature, and it's just crazy. But when it comes to being called racist, I've been called racist, and I've been called racist towards African Americans, which doesn't make much sense to me at all. But I've been called racist towards African Americans. I've been said that because I think that we should enforce laws and that we shouldn't let everybody out with a slap on the wrist. I've been called a racist for supporting securing the border and ensuring that we don't just let anybody into our country. I've been called racist for a large variety of things, and at this point, it's just become a word because they want to use it in every scenario, in every situation. It doesn't make sense much to me.
Bobby, what do you think, man? What do you think the driving motivation of the Democrats is?
Oh, I think it goes back to Marxism. And ultimately, I mean, if you study Marx and you see what happened in China and you see what's going on in other countries, you see it's happening here. I mean, and I think the big leap, the big step we could witness in 2020 with the COVID and with the censorship of legitimate news that absolutely affected the election, you could see that the Democrats are pushing their leftism, and we finally fought back. But if we don't, they will push... Because what the left hates is order, and they will push disorder. And so that means the crumbling or trying to disintegrate everything that keeps us together, whether that's love of country, whether that's family, whether that's religion, whether that's national identity. Any of those things, all of those things actually make us who we are as Americans. And they are going after each of those pillars that make America great. And that is fundamental Marxism. You tear that down, the only thing that binds anyone together then is government. And that's why they seek to control government so that they can control our lives. But it all comes down to that. That's what we're seeing, and that's what we have to fight.
So, Caleb, man, you're going to finish us out. We got 3 minutes. Tell me what you think. What do you see as America's future?
Well, it depends on what happens in 3 days. If we send President Trump back to the White House, I think that we will see once again a record number of prosperity. We'll see interest rates at an all-time low. We'll see the cost of living at an all-time low. We'll see that the great state of Texas will continue to be the #1 destination for small businesses. We will see that we are able to keep the indoctrination in the universities and schools out of schools and protect the fundamental of education and strictly education inside of schools. I think that we'll see a secure border, and I think that we will see that America can be prosperous, under the right leadership. But if we see Kamala Harris get elected as president, we will see another 4 years of disaster after disaster after disaster. We will see small businesses continue to be run out by large corporations that are bought and paid for politicians. And we'll see the continuous dehumanization of any Republican, and I think that's a big thing. They've called Republicans every single thing under the moon, and if we see that, we'll see the big media and fake media, fake news continue to grow in their propaganda, and we'll get to a point where we can't tell what is real or fake. I mean, we're already approaching that, but we won't be able to tell what is real or fake, or be able to understand what is happening, what is truly happening in the United States of America. But hopefully we'll stick with option one, and that's why we need to get out there and vote on November 5th and make sure that we send Republicans up and down the ballot to do their job.
Great way to close us out. Guys, I appreciate you being
Yeah,
on today.
fun times, Chris.
Caleb, and what's your group again?
The Texas Legislative Youth Advisory Council.
Yeah, and Bobby Everly with the Fort Bend County GOP.
Yep, enjoyed the show. Thanks.
And thank you both for having us on. This is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Show. We'll see you next Saturday, 10 a.m.